Hey, rockers and country rockers and bluegrass rockers and folk rockers. Welcome back to Bloody F Mess Official. Tonight, it's not about punk rock. It's not about metal. It's really not even about rock and roll per se, but it's about a very legendary figure in the music industry that I'm a big fan of. And of course, I'm talking about Steve Earle. Yeah, for those of you that are familiar, I really don't have to give you much of an education. But sadly, there's a lot of people in the rock world that don't know a lot about Steve Earle outside of his hit song, Copperhead Road, which was a big hit for Steve Earle. It kind of became like Dream On became for Aerosmith, like almost like a thorn in his side. He got the hit, he got the name recognition, but he has to play that song almost everywhere he goes or people aren't happy. But, he lovingly obliges his audience, and he does play Copperhead Road during his shows. We're going back to the year 2013, man. Yeah, God, time is flying, guys. Steve Earle and the Dukes performed up in Eugene, Oregon on October 1st, 2013 at the Shed Institute for the Performing Arts. It's a performing arts theater right there in Eugene. It was the Low Highway album tour. Of course, Steve Earle is an American country, rock, bluegrass, and folk singer and songwriter. He began his career as a songwriter in Nashville, and he released his first EP in 1982. His first album came out in 86, and it was called Guitar Town. Boy, has he changed a lot since that album. Yep, he started out, in the traditional sense, but then he realized, hey man, I'm not going to follow the rules of Nashville in this music scene. And he has been kind of a guy that has paved his own path ever since. He's been to hell and back, and he's doing great today though. He's gone through a lot of things in his life, from addiction to grief issues. Again, he has come ahead though, and he's done very good expressing his pain and life experiences through his music. Again, his first hit song and album, Copperhead Road, released in 1988, still his number one best-selling single to this date. His songs over the years have been covered by Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Travis Tritt, Levon Helm, and on and on and on. The guy's appeared on TV and film. He's written a novel, a play, books, at least one book of short stories that I know of. He's the father of the late singer-songwriter Justin Townes Earl. Rest in peace, Justin. Steve frequently collaborated with his son, Justin. Steve served time in prison and jail for various drug and weapon offenses, and he's happily now, though, a recovered addict, or they say recovering, but I think he's been on the mend for a long time. So lots of respect going out to Steve Earle for beating his demons. The guy actually performed as the result of one of his sentences. He had to perform at the jail or the prison that he was actually incarcerated at. And back in the day, I think around between 93 and 96, the MTV released a live concert that was amazing, called Steve Earle to Hell and Back. And it was live at that facility. And that was part of his court order to go back there and serve the people and play music and try to educate people that you can turn your life around. And he did that. And you can find that concert. I think it's on YouTube, and it's well worth watching. Steve Earle to Hell and Back. The guy's released 21 studio albums. And if you're going to ask me, hey, Bloody, what's your favorite Steve Earle album? I'll tell you. My favorite Steve Earle album is an album called I Feel All Right. God, that's a great song from 1996. It was great seeing the Steve Earle in person. Before I get into the show details, I'll tell you, I do not have the exact set list. This story is more about how I pissed off Steve Earle than a concert review. And now, I gotta tell you the truth, and a little disclaimer here. 13 years ago, or whenever it was, I'm bad at math, my partner, my wife Tracy, was mortified at what I'm getting ready to reveal to you guys. She made me promise back then not to talk about this again because it embarrassed her, it mortified her, and she was completely bummed out that this happened because Steve Earle is probably one of her very favorite musicians ever, and I pissed him off while she was with me. And here's how that went. We got to the Shed Institute a couple hours before the show started. Tracy really wanted to say hi to Steve. We had met him previously in Chicago. And I remember walking up to Steve Earle saying, hey man, this is my wife. She's your biggest fan. And he goes, well, I've got one in Nashville about this big. It was pretty funny. The guy was cool. He made time to talk to us in an alley in Chicago. But that's another story. So tonight, it was years later, right? Since we had met Steve, and she wanted to say hi bad. I said, let's go meet him, man. She's like, I don't know, man. Are you sure? I said, what do you mean? Let's just go walk around and look for Steve. So we walked through the shed doors. There's no one really hanging out. It was way before the show started, a couple hours, maybe more. And we get there, and I couldn't find Steve, couldn't find anyone that was in charge. So I said, follow me. And she's like really nervous. She's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. What's the worst that could happen, right? Little did I know what was going to happen. So we open another door. Next thing you know, it looks like we're in like a private lounge. And I'm like, wow, I wonder if this is like the backstage area or what's going on. Right then, a lumbering figure walks in and starts going off on me. And that lumbering figure was none other than Steve Earle himself. And he did not hold back on the cuss words. I'm going to try to refrain from saying them here because, YouTube, censorship, all that crap. Anyway, Steve Earle basically said, what in the hell are you doing? Who the F are you? What in the F are you doing back here? And I'm like, whoa, and my wife is just mortified. So I decide, well, it's kind of my fault. Maybe I should do the talking. So she tries to explain, but I'm like, look, Steve, it's all my fault. My wife just wanted to say hi, and he cuts me off. He goes, man, what would you do if I came walking into your house? I go, whoa, this is not your house. He goes, the hell it's not. I'm on the road most of the time, dude. He goes, this is my house. This is my only privacy that I get on the road. And you're in my house. And you walked in my door. And I'm like, ugh. And yeah, he was pissed. It didn't end there. Tracy tried to say she was sorry, tried to pull me out of the room. He just kept going off on me, man. And I just kept saying, Steve, I did not mean to piss you off. Well, I know you didn't, but you did. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought maybe he's going to pop me for a minute there. I thought maybe he might hit me. I was kind of freaking out. And I'm like, wow, I've never really, well, yes, I have. I was going to say I've never really pissed off a musician like that, but I'm wrong. If you scan the video section of this channel, there's a whole series of bands and musicians that I've pissed off, and the stories are all on my channel under the video section. Please take a minute to subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you. So Steve Earle's in the middle of going off on us, just mortified Tracy, and she looks like she wanted to sink down and just disappear. It was unbelievable, man. And I went on and told him how much we loved him, and he just didn't want to hear it, man. He basically just chastised me for about 5 or 10 minutes solid about don't ever invade my space again. How dare you? You've got a lot of nerve. F this, F that. He was pissed. We'd never seen that side of Steve and don't really want to see that again. Finally, after we berated me for a while and I pretty much apologized over and over, he started to slowly get less mad. But I realized Steve Earle's a guy that can have a temper. Be careful. Don't push the guy. And I felt this big. What a jerk going back there and invading his space. Steve Earle, if you somehow happen to be watching this video, I promise I'll never do it again. Anyway, finally, we were getting ready to walk out, and we were just feeling like this big. And I said, I really wanted to get a photo with you, but I won't ask. And he's like, well, we might as well. You're already back here. I was like, oh, my God. I don't even think I want to be in this photo, let alone ask him if I can be in it. So I said, can I just get a picture of you and my wife, and we'll get out of here? He did, and he smiled. And he's all cool. He got his long hair, kind of thinning on top, of course, but he had his long kind of hair, his long beard, still had some black and some gray, had his glasses on, had a cool button-up shirt that looked like a sort of a Southwestern style shirt. And in that photo, which I will eventually post on the post section on this video channel, you'll see the picture of Tracy with Steve Earle, and she looks like a deer in headlights. She's mortified. He literally had just got done griping at me for 10, 15 minutes. Okay, 5 or 10 minutes solid, though. Not griping, bitching at me. He was not happy at all. The cuss words were coming out like just like a flurry. Anyway, he did take the photo. We walked away. she didn't stop. She didn't stop, man. So first I had to deal with Steve Earle yelling at me and mad. Then it was her. She's like, I've never been so embarrassed. I told you over and over again. Are you sure we should be going back there? How dare you? Oh my God, I'm mortified. You just pissed off my favorite musician and writer, and damn you. I'm like, sorry, never happen again. My bad. So we go out and watch the concert, right? And Steve Earle comes out quietly, and the place is packed, right? The Shed Institute is packed. Steve comes out quietly, introduces his opening act, the Mastersons. You've probably heard of the Mastersons. If not, they're a husband and wife duo. They played a 30-minute set. They're also members of Steve Earle's band, the Dukes. Well, at that time. They eventually left, but they were with Steve Earle for a long time. Basically, Steve came out after the Mastersons played, and his band came out. I was going to give you a names of all his band members, but I got some conflicting information on the internet, so I'm going to skip that part in order to not look like an idiot. Don't want to piss off Steve again with wrong info. No. So Steve comes out finally, and he plays all the songs from his new album, The Low Highway, which was a treat. Very good, great stuff. He sprinkled in songs from all of his other albums. He did play The Devil's Right Hand, which I love. He was doing songs going all the way back to the 70s before he even had a record contract. Eleanor Whitmore from the Mastersons filled in for the great Lucinda Williams in the great song, the duet that Steve did with Lucinda called You're Still Standing There. Love that song. Steve was on stage talking about songwriters like Dylan, Springsteen, Woody Guthrie. He was 58 at the time. Steve Earle was 58. His son Justin had just been born a few years before that when he was 55. And he wrote a song and played a song for and about his son that night called Remember Me. And he talked about his son being born. Talked about autism, how his son had autism, and he was kind of fighting to, bring awareness to autism, which is a great thing. People were dancing. The guy was playing country, rock, blues. It was really good, man. Steve Earle, man, he's got his harmonica at times. He's got a banjo on at times. He's got an acoustic guitar. He's got beautiful, beautiful, heartfelt lyrics. And just, everyone really appreciated Steve Earle, including us. And we've ended up seeing him many times over the years. The guy came out and did 2 or 3 encores. That's how rabid his fan base is. They wanted more, and he came out and did it, man. And then after the show was over, we were told that Steve was going to come out and meet his fans and sign merchandise. Tracy had brought one of her Steve Earle books, I think the short stories book. So she got in line, and of course he happily obliged her and signed the book. I thought, I have to redeem myself. I'm going to get in that line, and I'm going to buy something from Steve Earle, and then I'm going to ask for an autograph, and hopefully things are hunky-dory between me and Steve now. Well, it was. There's a lot of people in line, and when he saw me coming, he didn't treat me any different than he treated the other fans, and it was a relief. I thought maybe he'd be like, oh, it's you again. Get the hell out of here, hippie. But he didn't, man. He was cool, and I just didn't say nothing about earlier. I just put down my money, bought a shirt or whatever it was I bought, and he was happy to get a photo with me, which I lost since then, and he signed whatever it was I had that I also lost since then. But he was a true gentleman after the show, and I'm glad that he looked the other way and didn't hold it against me. But that's kind of the story of how I pissed off legendary Steve Earle. Anyway, if you have any thoughts, leave them in the comment section. You can always reach me in the description area where I always put my email. And I promise you, man, I've got more videos coming because I'm on a roll. I'm doing 10 in 10. Last night was 10. Tonight is story number 9. Tomorrow will be story number 8 until we get all the way down to number 1. Yep, 10 stories in 10 days right here at Bloody F Mess Official. Long live Steve Earle, and rest in peace, Justin Townes Earle. And rest in peace to this guy, man, Townes Van Zandt, the guy that Steve Earle was heavily influenced by, and who he named, gave, his son, Justin Townes Earle, right? So, yeah, man, all I can say is I'm glad that Steve Earle got that out and over with, and I never have to worry about that ever again. But Townes Van Zandt, Yeah, I love this shirt. It's actually Tracy's. Don't tell her I'm wearing it. As a matter of fact, don't tell her I even did this video. She might get mad at me all over again. Hey, rock on, my friends. Thanks for watching my video, and have a great one. Talk soon.